If I don't know them, I don't care. Oh, yeah.
So 40 seats, 40 people. We'll probably do like, I don't know, 16. See you later. We'll probably play it.
You interrupted me. Like, Mamma Mia, dude. Stop interrupting me. Anyway.
How do we normally start?
What up, everybody? Welcome to episode 5?
I definitely put up 5 fingers the first time.
I'm pretty sure I saw your thumb shoot up after
Not in your life.
either episode 4 or episode 5 of Pemetawe Plays.
You know I don't like numbering the pods or the tubes.
We're not numbering the pods either?
I don't know. We've only done one.
That's true. I guess Jer's still I guess we'll see what happens.
It's all pods and tubes all the way down.
Well.
Welcome to Pemetawe Plays. This week we're going to be talking about power plants, published by Kids Table Board Games and designed by somebody.
Adam Dalton.
Adam Dalton.
Illustrated by... That is the coolest name.
Adam Dalton?
Apolline Etienne? I absolutely fucked that name. The illustration.
Etienne.
Is that really how you say it?
Yep.
Nice.
I don't know. I mean, that's how I say it.
Okay.
That's how I say it. And most importantly, graphics by my best friend, Josh Capel.
Josh Capel.
My sweet little Josh Capel.
Is that actually your friend? Because
Yeah.
that name sounds really familiar.
Oh yeah, big time. You
Nice.
know of Helena Capel,
I do.
who is the CEO of Kids Table Board Games,
Oh, nice.
and Josh Capel is the graphic designer for a lot of the KTBG and Bird Island games.
Gotcha.
So right off the hop, we'll do a disclosure. We did not get paid for this video, nor did we get this game as a free demo copy. We paid for this. Paid cash. Well, that's not entirely true.
Oh, boy.
Well, so
Here we go.
no, so we didn't get this copy as a demo copy for free for review purposes. What happened is because we're a retail store and Cam's coming in to disrupt our show, because we're a retailer store, I was able to order a case lot of games, and then they gave us one free demo copy, which is an offer that they make to any retailer. So it wasn't like they gave us for any special considerations for YouTube. But technically speaking, if you want to be pedantic, we did get this copy for free as a demo copy for the store when we bought a full case of the game.
Except we're reviewing it like we would review any other game.
That's the main takeaway. We are reviewing it like we would do any other game, except that I have a huge bias towards Kid Table Board Games because I love Josh and Helena Capel.
Well, I haven't met them, so I'll be harsh.
Perfect. Well, let's start with that. Be harsh.
So I'll start off with things I like, because I feel like we should start the video with the things we like. I like that it is asymmetrical. I like that there's a little element of RNG.
Can I correct you real quick?
It's not asymmetrical.
It's not asymmetrical.
I like that it's not asymmetrical.
Variable.
Variable?
Yeah, so an
here
asymmetrical
we go.
would essentially mean that we all have different abilities or different powers, which we don't. We're all operating with the same tool set. You're thinking a variable play setup. So
where there's like a little bit of RNG, but we still have the same
access
thing?
to the same tool
yeah,
set.
access to the same things. There you go.
Yeah.
That's term
So it
I'm
is
for.
variable setup because there are, in the core game and the retail version, there's 10 different types of plants. There's 5 different colors of tile, and each tile can be one of 2 different plants. And so it is a variable setup, so every setup can be a little bit different. And in the Kickstarter version, I think we have 8 different types of plants.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I'll do a quick count.
I don't think we ever actually played with all of them, though, because you
Well,
do
you
like
can,
randomize
because you
them.
only do 5 plants,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, so we just randomized it. But yeah, that is one thing I do like about it, is that there's a level of strategy you need, but it's not entirely RNG, but it's not entirely not RNG. Like, it's just right in the middle, which I really like, because I do like it when board games have like an element of RNG where there is a little bit of luck involved, and if you're just luckier, then you can like pull yourself out of like a bad situation.
Yeah.
But still you can play right and win off of it. Not to brag, but I'm undefeated in this game, 2-0.
It's true.
The GOAT.
The greatest of all time.
Yep.
So in the retail version, there are 8 types of plants. There's Deeproot, Frightshade, Snapjaw, Emberwood, Honeyleaf, Starflower, Tanglethorn, and Wingbean. And of those 8 types of plants, there is like alternate versions of each plant. So you have like one type of Snapjaw, and then the other alternate version is Trapmaw, so they'll have different abilities. So every time you set up the game, you're going to set up 5 specific types of plants, and you can choose which variant you want. Now, in the Kickstarter edition, which we're lucky enough to have, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 2 extra plants, which gives us a total of 16 variations of making that 5-plant garden.
Would it be 20? Or do 4 of them not have a variation?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You win this round, you clown.
Math. 10 plus 10 is 16. Or whatever the fuck you said.
Whatever I said. Who the fuck even knows?
Not me.
And also in classic kids table board game fashion, we also have a couple little mini expansions. So we have the Spades expansion, we have the Sprite Pawns expansion, and we have the
Oh boy.
oh good lord, we have the Wizards expansion. So just a couple little like bonuses that we have in the Kickstarter version. I know these Kickstarter versions are not going to be around for long, so if you are lucky enough to find a retailer like Pemetawe Games that has a Kickstarter version, I highly recommend getting it. But I do know that KTBG is pretty good about like trying to be consistent with releasing a game every like 8 to 16 months or 8 to 18 months. So you'll likely be able to pick up a Kickstarter copy in the future as well. But yeah, even the base game I think still has a nice amount of variability. So like I wouldn't say that if you can't get the Kickstarter version, you shouldn't try to get the game. But you'll definitely get a better value, like in a lot of games with the Kickstarter version and the basic version.
Yep.
What I like about the game, two things really jump to mind for me. One, it's not a very long game. At the start of the game, you put in 7 tiles for each plant, so a total of 35 tiles, which will basically determine... Is it 7? No, I'm trying to remember. We really got to do better research before we do these videos.
Hell no, that's how we keep it authentic. We don't know what's going on.
That's fair.
I never played this game once in my life.
And then somehow you're still the GOAT. So decide which 5 plants you want to play with, or randomly draw 5 plant cards. Take the correct 5 sets of patch tiles, so the matching plant tiles. Yeah, okay, so it depends on how many players. In a 2-player game, so there's 8 physical tiles for each color. In a 2-player game, you only play with 6 tiles of each plant. In a 3-player game, you only play with 7, and 4 or 5 you play with all of them. So it will be a little bit of variable tiles on the board, but I think it'll equate probably the same number of turns.
Yep.
But essentially, the main takeaway here is that when you set the game up, you'll know exactly how many tiles are going in the bag. And each turn, each player takes 1 tile from the bag and then plays it on the board, adding to the overall tableau or to the garden patches.
Yeah.
So the game is not very long. It doesn't overstay its welcome. And the other thing I like about this game, and I wouldn't necessarily like it, but a positive I would highlight is that it is a fairly competitive game. One of the things for me, like when I first started talking to Helena with KTBG and Burnt Island Games, it was like Burnt Island Games always I always positioned it in my mind as like more of like the hobbyist game. So they do Fall of the Mountain King, Into the Hall of the Mountain King, In Too Deep, which is one of my favorites. And they're like heavier, more strategic games. And then I always positioned KTBG, which is kids table board games, in my mind as more of like a lighter kiddie type game. And like, well, those aren't for me. I'm more of a hobbyist gamer. And Cam and I played Rec Raiders, which I'd like to go back to and play again now that I have a better understanding of KTBG's design. It wasn't the best experience, but only because we were playing at 2, and I don't think Rec Raiders is really a great game at 2.
Yeah.
But I think it was a really cool design. And then Creature Comforts, which really sold me on KTBG as a design philosophy, because it's not a very... It's a kid-friendly game, but it's not a kid game, if that makes sense. And I think that's an important distinction. So it is a game that like isn't so complex that you can't play with an 8 or 10-year-old. And full disclosure, I don't really have a good handle on the cognitive ability of 10-year-olds. But it is still a game that like I could play with like my hobbyist friends or my core gamer friends and still really enjoy it. And I think Power Plants, even more than Creature Comforts, to me is like a very well-designed and hobbyist-style game that like I could see like very serious, very tactical board game players really getting a lot out of it. It's a very tactical and a very like it can be very cutthroat. It doesn't have to be. But like, the way we played with you, me, and Jeff was like one of the I think it was a Snapjaw that lets you capture sprites. So I was playing a very aggressive game where I was just constantly capturing Jeff's sprites so that I could ransom them off at the end of the game for points.
Yeah, so that's one thing I like as well, is that it's not a hard game at all. But it is very much like if you're playing with people who are playing to win, it can become a hard game because you really have to plan out your moves. Because the one that we played, me, you, and Lorenzo, I'm pretty sure it was just me, you, and Lorenzo. It was just us 3. The only reason I won was because you 2 were trying to like hold this one zone, which I think would be the field.
Yep.
So there's a field and what's the other one?
Patch.
A patch and a field. So a patch is just one
tile,
1 unit, and then a field is 2 or more.
Of the same type of patch, So multiple patches of the same type that are contiguous will make a field. Yeah.
So you guys were trying to fight each other over this field, and I just put my tiles on the other end and just like racked up points because you 2 were so like hyper focused on one spot. And the only reason I won was because on my last 2 turns, I think I made like over 20 points.
Yeah.
And
Which
then,
is good. I mean, don't qualify. Like, the only reason you won is because you play better than us.
Well, yeah, like that's just like what I mean is
Yeah.
is like just because like it's not a hard game and it is like
If you hadn't scored more points than me, I would have won.
yeah, you would have gotten away with it. But yeah, like it's not a hard game except just because like
It's not a hard game to learn, but there is a lot of strategy and a lot of opportunities. And again, one of the things I like about it is that, am I interrupting anything?
it's not a hard game.
Is that what this means?
Yeah, this is I wasn't finished my thought.
Okay.
So
the universal symbol.
yeah, I wasn't finished my thought. Is that it's not a hard game except like since we were like kind of learning and it was a little like competitive, you guys were just like fuck you. Mamma mia, dude. Whatever.
I was just thinking, when you edit these videos, every time I interrupt you, I want you to just get the little emoji, the little yellow emoji.
I'll just zoom in on my hand when I'm raising it above my head.
But you'll have to go back to other videos when you don't think to make that symbol, and then put that symbol in every time. And there's like a big yellow text at the bottom, David interruption alert.
All right, I'll do it.
All right.
I'll add like a siren and everything.
I just do this. This is good enough.
No, this and a siren
No siren.
because then it'll interrupt you
No siren.
and it'll be karma.
No.
I'm the one that edits the videos. I'm the
fair.
one that picks if there's sirens or not. You don't even watch them.
That's true.
You
You won't send them to me.
because you have to wait like everybody else does.
That's what Sean wants to do with the podcast. Anyways, finish your thought.
It's gone.
All right.
It's long gone.
So,
The don't likes.
you want me to go first? Mine are a little softer than yours, I think.
Sure.
So one thing I don't like, and this is a little bit of a pet peeve, and I'm actually kind of surprised because KTBG and Burnt Island Games I think have done a much better job in the past. But one thing I don't like is I don't love this tray.
Whoa.
Oh my good lord! So I can't hold this very well for the camera without dumping everything on the floor. But basically, like, you have all these nice spots for these tiles, which is great. But then you have this like awkward little space here, this little side cubby where the points go. And then underneath this cards, you have like this big bin for all of your sprites. And it just feels like everything kind of fits in here, but it just feels like a little bit cramped.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like they could have maybe given you like little individual pockets for the sprites. Now, part of this is exacerbated by the fact that we have the Kickstarter expansion. So in the retail version, you have one wizard. And basically the wizard, and this is going to be one of my other complaints, but basically the wizard just marks when you place a tile, you place the wizard down to mark where you just placed your tile. And I think this might be specifically designed for younger players who maybe don't necessarily have the cognitive processing power to like always remember exactly where they played or which tile they played if they get distracted halfway through.
Yeah.
I just assume everyone who's under the age of 18 is an idiot. And so that's problem one. And then my other problem is, like, I'm really happy that they included these Kickstarter expansions, and I think they're neat. We didn't play with any of them, so maybe they're not neat. I don't know. And we might have lost our little spades because I only see one spade in here. Oh my
Perfect.
God, I'm losing. This couch is
You're just falling
I
apart.
really, truly am. I warned you.
The best part about this though is that this is in the way, so I think
Nobody
the
can see
camera,
it except
yeah,
you.
this is all for me.
And so, like, one of the expansions is you get this little, like, pawn thing. And what's unfortunate is these pawns are part of the starting tableau. So at the start of the game, you make a tableau of 5 of one of each of the plants you're playing with. And then these pawns get added into the tableau. Now, unfortunately, these pawns are cardboard as opposed to wood. And so, like, they're the same shape and the same size. And again, we haven't played with it, so maybe it's not a problem. But like, there's definitely a height differentiator, so it just feels like it would be awkward to play with these pawns.
Yep.
And again, like for the Kickstarter version, it just doesn't feel like all of the extras that I have a nice little home in here. And again, part of that problem is the wizard, and that's another thing that I don't necessarily love for the base version. Is like this wizard just seems like an unnecessary add-on, and we always forgot about it.
Yeah.
Because like the idea is you place a tile, you place the wizard on the tile you just played, and then resolve the powers. Now, there is an optional wizard expansion where every player has their own wizard, and I do think that's a neat thing that I would have liked to maybe see in the core game.
Yep.
Because what happens is when you play a tile, you play the wizard on it, and that one tile is then for like protected from any other player interacting with you. So it's just kind of like a little bit of more defensive ability, which I think would add like a nice little touch to the game. And those are really my only complaints, which I think are very minor. I love the player variability. Like I said, I think those are my only real complaints. Is just the box just feels a little crowded with all of the extras in it, which is like a weird thing to complain about. Like, hey, you gave me too much stuff.
Yeah.
And then just like this wizard guy. It doesn't feel. One other thing I'd like to say that I love, again, I feel like we're just creating like a real huge FOMO for anyone who wants this game but can't or didn't get the Kickstarter version, because like I think the Kickstarter version is so cool.
Yeah.
All of and this is also like a marker of KTBG / Burnt Island Games. They are so thoughtful and intentional when it comes to their Kickstarter backers. It's a little thing, but every sprite for every of the 5 player colors is different.
Oh, I was gonna say that. I was gonna say real quick. I like that all of the little sprites are like you actually have your own like team, pretty much.
Yeah. And I'm like, again, like that's just like they did that with Into the Hall of the Mountain King. Every troll faction had like their own little shapes of like little, like the troll guys were all the same, but like they had the little player markers that were always a little bit different. Like it's not a big thing, and it probably costs them like more than it's probably worth in the grand scheme of things. But like for me, I really love that. So
shows that they care.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword, I think, because, like I said, I'm concerned now that, like, we've created FOMO for anybody who's like me. Like, I'm super obsessive about, like, wanting to get the full, complete experience out of board games. So, like, if you didn't get the Kickstarter version, then...
Yeah.
Oh, also, another thing I like, just, like, this really nice velvet bag. I'm imagining this is probably standard in the retail version because this is an instrumental part of the game. But, like, I've played so many games where they have, like, a draw bag. And, like, the draw bags, some games are, like, so tiny. Like, this is a nice, hefty size bag. It's way bigger than it needs to be in terms of, like, just the pure functionality.
Yeah.
Like, they probably could have shrunk this by about 30 or 40% and still had it do what it needs to do. But having to put, like, 20 tiles in here or however many tiles you put in here, like, this is a nice size where you can, like, really mix them up and like, fit your hand in there. So, yeah.
You fit the whole hand in there.
The whole damn thing. Yeah, and you get all the little... plant symbols in it too. It's just like a really nice touch. Just like, I guess ultimately, I know we're supposed to be talking about the negatives, but
yeah, you really derailed it.
There's just so much to like about this game. Like that's the problem. It's hard to like focus. Like I do think the negatives are definitely like negatives, but like even the negatives are kind of weird. Like it's like, yeah, you gave me too much stuff to fit in the box. Like that's a weird thing to complain about.
I think just like a general term that we could use for it is just like it shows that they do genuinely care about their game and like care about actually putting out like a quality product rather than just like shipping it out.
Yeah.
Like just all of the small pieces to it and all the little things are just well made.
Yeah.
But
now the bad.
But you really hyped it up because I don't really have that much to say, and I feel like mine is gonna be a little bit anticlimactic.
Clamato.
It's
gonna be anti-clamato.
It'll be a little bit anti-clamato. Is that I kind of felt like the first time we played it, not as bad the second time, but the first time we played it, it really felt like I wasn't doing anything. Like it just felt like the game was. I was just
playing itself.
Yeah, like I was just putting stuff down and hoping it worked, and like it turned out it worked. But it was like, it just felt like nothing I did really mattered up until the end, and like the second time we played. It's a little bit of a more biased opinion because I did rack up over half my points in my last 2 turns, which is like fine. And like I understand that can just happen in games, but I do think it is a little bit weird that up until the end, it really felt like nothing you did mattered, nothing I did mattered, nothing Lorenzo did mattered. It just mattered at the end. But I think that could be more attributed to the fact that that's where I earned all my points. And I feel like if at the start you made 20 points, then like nothing mattered after.
Yeah.
I just think that there was such a huge swing, and I don't think Lorenzo did anything inherently wrong. I think I just got luckier with like no one paying attention to where he put his sprites.
So I'll say 2 things to that. One thing, I think part of it might have been my fault because I didn't follow the recommended rules of like playing with a balance between day, midday, and night cards or whatever they're called.
So it's your fault.
I think so. It would be interesting to play again with like what they recommend instead of just like throwing caution to the wind and just randomly picking 5 plants because I literally just picked 5 random plants.
Yeah,
like that was all I did. So I think that might address some of the problems, and I think that like the randomization, like complete random, like just chaos mode, is probably interesting once you've got a little bit more experience in the game.
Yeah.
So I think that might be part of it because like, and I learned this from watching another YouTube video about this game. Our friends over at Inspired to Game, Lola and her partner, whose name I definitely know, that you know each of the cards has a little bit of a theme, or like the day cards are like a little bit more about points, and the midday cards are like whatever their theme is, and the night cards are a little bit more like aggressive and take that. And I think I think we maybe played with 1 day card. I think you're supposed to do two and 1, like only 1 like aggressive card. I think we had 3 aggressive cards, so I think that was part of the problem. Yeah, it was like the layout of cards. So I think that is a big part of it. So But that being said, I don't want to discount your negative because maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that would like maybe shift your perception a little bit. And then the other piece of it is that like I think part of it is like I don't think you're inherently wrong. The decision point in this game, like even that aside, like obviously like you can't be wrong on an opinion, but like I mean, I think it's a fair criticism because the decision points in the game are fairly fixed.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you only have 5 plants in the overall pool, and you are basically choosing from 2 plants at any given time. So you don't have a ton of options, right? Like it is a very like fixed dynamic, but in perspective, like one of my favorite games to this day still remains Carcassonne, and Carcassonne is a game fundamentally about making very fixed choices based on one thing. So like I wouldn't necessarily call this similar to Carcassonne, but it's also not entirely dissimilar to Carcassonne in that you are drawing a tile, you're placing that tile specifically fixed to other tiles, and you're trying to control pieces of those tiles, right? And so a lot of that is overlapped here. And again, I wouldn't say that if you like Carcassonne, you're going to like power plants, but like I think they share that kind of at least core element of you have to make a decision based on very limited options and then make the best of that option.
Yeah. The one other point that I had, is what I'm going to start doing to him every single time.
That's the interrupting symbol.
Yeah, you interrupted me. Like, Mamma Mia, dude, stop interrupting me. Anyway. Wow. That's mean. Hello to this guy, dude. Anyway, so the one thing, too, that I can't really decide if it's a positive or a negative, and at the start I was kind of saying it like a positive, but now I'm kind of thinking of it as a negative, but I'm like right in the middle for it, is that there's a lot of options, and you can ignore all of them. I don't think I ever used I don't think I've used the grow power, like once.
And what's interesting to me is I almost never use the grow power is the secondary action, right? The weaker one?
I always use the one where when you place the tile, you just use the tile.
Yeah, and I think I mostly did the other side of things.
Yeah. Like, I almost exclusively ignored the, like, weaker versions of, like, multiple powers. I only used their sprout power. And, like, I just felt like I had the option of doing it. And, like, yeah, I could have maybe made, like, a few more points, but it just ultimately never mattered. Like, I just played the plant where I wanted it, and I was just like, well, like, this is what I'm doing. And it just worked out every time. And, like, I think that's, like, a positive thing in a sense of it makes the game easier to just jump into and play, and you still have a realistic chance of winning, even if you don't, like, utilize all of your options. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's a little bit of a negative because it's just like
you just kind of fail forward.
Yeah, like you and Lorenzo were really like planning out every move, and I was literally like your turns were like 5 minutes long, Lorenzo's turns were like 5 minutes long. My turns were like 20 seconds because I was literally taking a tile and just planting it and just moving on with my life, and it just worked out.
Yeah.
And like, so I don't really think it's a negative thing because it makes it easier to play, but then at the same time, it's like, why even think about what you're doing or why plan out your moves if you can just win by just planting them?
Sure. It might have also been different if Lorenzo and I weren't trying to tear each other down so much too.
Yeah, so I also think you were trying to kill Jeff, and then you were trying to kill Lorenzo, and I was just like on the side just playing my own game. So I think that's also why I won. But yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe if there was 4 people, I think I can play up to 5 people. I think if there was like 4, then maybe it wouldn't be the case. But yeah.
And that's another positive I'll say too is I don't think I haven't played it at 2 players, but I think it would actually play fairly well at 2 players as well. I think as like just a 2-player heads-up game, it would be. I think it'd be a really interesting and like, I think that's an interesting point too. And I mean, we can't speak to it exactly, but I think the player count will actually shift the dynamic quite a bit. And I could see it playing very good at 2, but it'd be a very different experience than playing it at like 4 or 5.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like I said, when it was me, you, and Lorenzo, I think the only reason why I won was because you two were just locked and loaded, aiming at each other, and I was just on the side racking up points. What would you rate the game?
Would play again.
That was actually pretty close to a numerical rating because you actually rated it other than...
I almost gave it a number, but it would have just been an arbitrary number, and it wouldn't have had any value. So
just like a 27.8?
No, I was going to be like 10 out of 10, but like I don't know that I would necessarily qualify it as a 10 out of 10. But like for me, it's either a game I would play again or a game I wouldn't play again, and this is definitely a game I would play again.
Yep. Shut up. I have a very hard time. Like, it's weird. I always think like if I hated the game, then I would never rate it over a 5. But then if I at least enjoyed my time playing it, I'll never rate it under a 5. So I feel like my ratings are skewed because it's like, I feel like if you rate something like 3 out of 10, there were still positives to it, but like you didn't like it. But like, I wasn't a huge fan of this game. And I don't think it's because the game itself is doing anything wrong. I think it's just not my like genre of game that I like.
think that's fine. I think it's fine to be like, like, and that's the problem with would play again, wouldn't play again, right?
Yeah.
Like Keystone America, not to throw that game under the bus because I still want those Rose Gauntlet hoodies. That's a game.
Send us our hoodies.
That's a game I wouldn't play again.
Yeah, and like which is also weird though because I think I rated it a 6 out of 10.
And objectively, I think it's a good game.
Yeah,
I think it's a well-designed game. I think the artwork's beautiful. I think the components are really nice. It's just not a game that I enjoyed, and I think that's fine.
yeah,
Like you can appreciate. It's like movies, right? Like there are movies that are very well done. It's like anything. I don't know why I had to pull like an example.
specifically only movies.
Yeah, only
I have
movies.
this.
But like it like you can appreciate what they did, and you can appreciate the design, and you can say objectively this is a well-designed game.
Yep.
But it's not a game I like, right? Like it's
Which is like exactly how I feel with this game. Is that like I think if you like this genre of games, you will like it, and I think it's worth playing. But as a person that's not a huge fan of this style of game, I found it to be a little boring. So like overall, I'd say like a 6 out of 10 because like I still enjoyed it like closer to the end where you could tell that everybody was like, all right, now I have to make every move count kind of feeling rather than at the start where it was just like.
well,
I'll
and
just play
part
stuff
of
where I
it
place
too,
it.
I think, is that we've only played it twice.
Yep.
Lorenzo's only played it once, and Jeff only played it once, and I
Yep.
think that's also what makes it a little bit more difficult. Like, and I think that's why it's important to frame these as first impression videos,
Yep.
and not like a detailed analysis, because like your experience playing Power Plants the first and second time is going to be very different than your experience playing Power Plants a 10th time, right?
Yeah.
And I do think it is a game that probably every move does count. We just didn't play it enough to like appreciate that level of it.
Yep, that's fair. But that's my first impression of it, I guess, is
Yeah.
that like it just felt like the first half the game it didn't really matter, and then last half was just it just worked out in my favor, and it didn't work out for other people. So
Yep.
the reigning king.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think 6 out of 10
Would play again.
would play again, maybe. I might play it again.
No,
you would.
you gave your rating. I gave my rating.
Yeah, except
Your rating-
I'm saying
Your rating was 6
Shut
out of
up.
10. My rating was would play again. I was just following up your rating with my rating.
yeah, and then I was agreeing.
That was a summation of the video, and then you just
Nope. Listen. Well, this is also a part of the video too. Listen, I'm saying that it is a 6 out of 10,
and I'm saying
then
it's a
you-
would play again.
and then I was saying I would play it again.
Nobody
as well,
cares.
except I care, and I'm the one with the mic, and my hand was up higher. So,
Yeah, your arms are so long you can touch the ceiling without getting up.
So all I'm saying is that I would play it again. Maybe you would play it again. I might play it again.
Jury's still out,
You liked it. I kind of liked it.
All right.
That's the video.
and we're
See
out.
you later. That's gonna be such a cool outro. Oh, that was such a banger. Oh, have you ever seen that good of an outro in your life?